Alright, so today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up a domain controller. And setting up the domain controller, I'm also going to show you how to configure the DNS, and then we're going to set up another virtual machine that we're going to use to join the domain. We've done this in the class already, but I'm just putting up this video to kind of walk you through the process of creating a domain controller, a DNS, a customized DNS server, and getting another virtual machine to join that domain. At this point, I believe most of you guys are familiar with creating an instance. You can go ahead and create an instance this way. And I'm going to call this one client. I'm going to give it to CPU core, and I'm going to put 2012 server on it. You can use another flavor of Windows if you so desire. Here I'm going to select 2012 actual server. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to go ahead and create. So as you can see, I've already created a virtual machine called DC, but now I'm creating another client. You should note that both of them have 2012 server on them. I'm going to go ahead now and retrieve the password to log on to the VM called DC, and this is the VM that I intend to use as my domain controller. Once the password is generated, I'm going to use the same password to log on to this machine. Yep, there you go. Password is generated. I'm going to click copy, and I'm going to select RDP. I'm going to download this RDP on my desktop. This is my desktop. Call it DC, and I'm going to bring it up. Going to connect, and here I'm going to enter my password that I generated earlier, and I'm going to have this message comes up. Give me the opportunity to log into it. So I've created my server here. Then I'm going to go ahead and install Active Directory on it. Installing Active Directory will allow me to promote this server to be a domain controller later. So I'm going to go and proceed and go ahead and do this. So I'm going to install domain services, add features, go to next, I set the default, and go to install, and I will wait for a few minutes for this process to complete. Alright, so my installation is completed. I'm going to go ahead and configure and promote this server now to be a domain controller. We're just going to call this our domain. Let's call it peace.org. You can use any domain name that you prefer. For simplicity, we're going to go with peace. And I'm going to set up a password. Again, you can use any password of your choice here, as long as it's complex enough for Windows to accept it. I'm going to go to next. And note that the DNS server will automatically be installed at this point if your system doesn't have one already on the network. If this system cannot detect any domain controller on the network, it's going to go ahead and install one for itself. So you can watch the message over here, and you can see the transition and what is taking place during the process of this installation. Now, you've seen this error message a couple times before by now, and that is because it's complaining of a prerequisite, which is a local administrative password that is blank. You see that? It's blank. That's why. So I'm going to come over here, go to my computer management, and I will go to local users. As part of the prerequisite for a domain controller, you cannot have a blank password. So go ahead and set this up. And go to OK, and the password has been set. And I'm going to go back here again. Reviews, and go to next now to see if I can go on with the installation, and it should be successful at this point. Domain controller will be successfully installed, and from this time forward we can wrap up the installation of our domain controller. Note that your system will automatically restart at the end of this process, so you will lose connectivity for your RDP session for maybe 2 or 3, 4 minutes, depending on how fast the system is. But just expect that at the end of this installation process, you will lose connectivity. It will take about 2 or 3 to 5, 4 minutes for you to be able to reconnect back again. And you can see now we're about to get signed out. That means your system is going to restart itself. You will lose connectivity for a little while, and then we will wait. Alright, so I believe our domain controller should have restarted by now. So we're going to try to connect to it. And this time around, I'm going to try to connect to the domain. So remember that I reset the password for administrator earlier on. So I'm going to come over here and say administrator at peace, the domain that I just created. So I'm logging onto that domain controller instead of the local system, and I'm going to enter the password that I set up earlier, and I'll go to click OK, and that should take me over here. And now you can see I'm logging on into my domain controller. A few things that we're going to do really quickly here. Just a little bit of house cleaning. Remember that our ultimate goal is for this client to be able to join these domain controllers. So this is very, very important. Alright, so I'm going to quickly show you a quick thing. So you can see we have DNS on this machine as well. I will go over here and start my PowerShell, or you could use your command prompt as well, but I'll use my PowerShell in my case here, and I would type ipconfig, type ipconfig/all. One of the things you will quickly notice here is that my DNS server is pointing to itself. So that's okay. 127.0.0.1 is the same thing as pointing to itself, which is this IP address. But this is not an explicit IP address. So, I mean, this is not an explicit IP address. This is kind of a relative IP address. So I'm going to change this to this so that anybody outside of this machine can refer to it. So then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to quickly make some changes really quick here. Here's my network card. Go to properties. First of all, I'm going to remove the version 6, so that way you don't see this stuff that you're not familiar with. And I'm going to come over to our version 6 here, and I'm going to change this to the actual IP address of the machine itself, which is 10.128.0.47. Alright? Pay attention to this, just the same IP address, and it's the same thing with what was there before. 127.0.0.1 is a unique way of a system pointing to itself. So instead of this person just pointing to itself, we're just saying, let's just use your IP address. It's the same thing. We haven't changed anything effectively. But this makes it easier for this machine to be referenced from outside of this machine. So if I say, okay, now, if I go back and type the same thing again, you would see, looks much better now on the DNS side, right? It's pointing to itself, like what it was doing before, but now it's actually giving us an actual IP address. And also, you would be able to see the version 6 is no longer there, which is okay. This machine ideally should have access to the internet. You can see. So we are good to go based on what we want to configure. But again, don't forget that this is the IP address of our box. And if I were to ping peace.org, See, this guy knows that is that domain. It's not going on the internet because this DNS server knows this domain name peace.org. Now, this is very, very, very important. I'm going to also quickly now connect to my my client system. I'm going to set the password because ultimately I want this client to join this domain. Copy the password, go to RDP, download the RDP client, and I'm going to come over here, go to connect, enter the password, click yes, and this should take us right. As you can see, here is my client box. You will see something that I did earlier on here. Go to PowerShell. If I tell this guy to ping peace.org, anytime you want to join a domain, the first thing you want to make sure is, can I ping that domain? If you ping it and you can respond, great. But one thing should catch your attention very, very quickly. This client is actually looking at a different peace.org on the internet. If you look at the domain controller here, I'll bring them side by side so you can compare the result. When I ping peace here on the domain controller, it's actually pointing to itself, 10.128.0.47. But when I ping peace on the client here, it's actually pointing to a totally different server on the internet. Why is there the discrepancies? It's very, very easy. You have to realize that this is a function of the DNS server. And if I look at this, you can see the DNS server for the client is looking at this. It's looking at 0.1 as DNS server. And this DNS server is not aware of this domain. So what I have to do is I have to provide additional DNS server to this client so that when he needs to talk to peace.org, it would also check with this other DNS server, this guy over here that knows about this piece. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to connect to the internet because it's looking at a different domain on the internet. So how do I go by this? Very, very easy. The first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to come over to the network. Remember, these two machines are on a network, and I'll show you what network they are now. If I go to my VPC network, they are on a network called default. Okay? How do I know they're on a network called default? That's very easy. If I go over to Compute Engine VM instance, if I select this machine here, you can actually edit this machine and you can look at where their network really is. And by viewing their network, you may be able to actually find out what, network they belong to. And here you can see network interface. You can see this guy is connected to a network called default. That is the network is connected to, default. So that's how I knew. And when I go over to VPC network here, I can easily tell that default is the network that they are connected to. So what do I need to do then? I need to create an alternate DNS. What I will get with an alternate DNS, see cloud DNS here, I'm going to create an alternate DNS. I'm going to say create a DNS zone. And one of the things I could do, and I will show you, actually, let me go back here and show you one of the easy ways to do this. If you create a zone, alright, I'm going to actually select this side here so you can see create a policy. Alright, so you create a policy and you can call the policy customize DNS. All right, make it give it a hyphen over here, accept the default here, and then I'm going to come over here and select the network. If I say I want to give it a network default over here, I can create something here. All right, I can do that here. Now, it's very, very important for you to be aware of what we're doing here. So I've created a policy name, call it customize DNS. I've attached it to the network called default, and I'm going to specify the IP address of the DNS server. And this is where I'm going to copy the IP address of this DNS so that every machine on this network will be able to use this DNS here as an alternative DNS. So I'll come over here and copy this here, and I'm just going to go ahead and create it. So I've created an alternative DNS server, which is essentially this domain name, the DNS server that I installed with the domain controller here. As you can see, 10.128.0.47, 10.128.0.47. So then I can go ahead now and tell the client on this side and say, okay, I want you to use an alternate DNS server in addition to your current DNS server. So come over here, and I'm just going to, first of all, I know the original DNS of this man. So I come over here and say 10.128.0.1. And here I'm just simply going to say 10.128.0.47. Use that as an alternative. Go to OK and close. Close that and close this as well. And normally, I've seen cases where by simply doing that, if you were to go back and do this, your machine will automatically go back and default to the other DNS that we wanted to use. But there are times when you will have to restart it for it to pick up on that other DNS. Ultimately, when you get it right, you will see the litmus test, because you can see this guy is still referring to the piece, .org on the internet. That's not what we want. We want it to refer to another DNS locally. And you will know you've gotten it right, because eventually when we do come over here and we are saying, hey, connect to peace.org, this machine is going to be able to connect. You're going to get prompted here. As you can, my mistake here. Domain here, go to peace.org. When you press OK here, after your DNS is properly working, you'll be prompted here. You can see we're prompted for a name here, peace.org, right? And then if I come over and say administrator, capital P at SLW0LD, if your machine is actually referencing the right DNS server, you will get a welcome message here that's going to say welcome to peace.org domain. Okay, I don't want to restart it yet, but now this machine can talk to our DNS. You can see now that now when I ping peace.org, it's referring to the local peace.org, not the 184.168.221.61. You see that now? So that is very, very, very important. And now I can restart this machine, and technically you would say this new machine has joined the domain, but it's not completed until we restart. I can go back into my domain controller now, and I'll go to my Active Directory. Users and computers. And if you go to computers container, you can see the client machine that we just had it. Essentially, we have joined this machine to the domain by creating an alternate DNS entry in Google Cloud Platform and configure our client to use an alternative DNS server. We're going to wait for the machine to restart, and then we're going to log into our client now using the domain account. Actually, as a matter of fact, I will create a user account here to demonstrate that to you. Go over here, go to users, and here I'm going to create John Wesley, and I'm going to say my username is jwesley@peace.org. I'll say password never expire, and I will set the password here for it. And I'll go to next, and I'll go to finish. And note that I'm creating this account in the domain controller, not in the client. But that would not make any difference, because now that the client is on the domain now, I will try to log on to it, but I will not log on to the local machine now. I'm going to log on to the domain, and I'm going to say jwesley. That is the account that I create on the domain controller. See, this jwesley here at peace.org, and I will specify the password. And if I do that, I have this, and one of the things that I'll be able to do is automatically be able to log on to this system. Now, you will notice that when I first log on with that user account, I get this error message. It says the connection was denied because the user account is not authorized for remote login. That's very, very simple problem to fix. If you ever have that problem, all you have to do is come over here and type secpol. Okay, local security policy. You click that open. You go to your account policy, go to user right assignment, and then select this. Allow logon through remote desktop. Go to hard, go to advanced, find your user, and in my case I'm looking for, jwesley. That's the username that I had used. Select this user, click OK, and it will automatically have the user there, so you can have him over here. So just want to kind of show you if you have that problem, that's all you have to do, navigate. You can slow this video process and just watch it again. And normally now I should be able to go back, try to log on into the client using the domain account that I created. And anytime you make a modification like that on your domain controller, I recommend running this, clear this password. I recommend running gp update/false, and what that does is to automatically refresh any changes you made and propagate it across your system, the domain controller. So that's done, and now I'm just going to go ahead and click OK, and I will see what happens here. As you can see now, I can log on now with the domain account into the client system. Alright, so if you have any question, please let me know by sending me an email. But I hope this exercise has kind of helped you. Again, the focus is not remote desktop here. I don't want it to get divided here. The key now that I wanted to understand here is how to make your Windows system join the domain. And in order for us to do that, a couple of things we need to make sure we put in place. Number one is we need to make sure that we have an alternate DNS server. The alternate DNS configuration that we have over here generally is the DNS server that you also install on your domain controller, because that's the DNS server that knows the domain name that was specified. Okay, thank you.